The ancient Egyptians talk about this era. They have left us writings, and they said there was a time called Zep Tepi, the first time, what I call the golden time. And this time was when humanity was so aware. At that time, we're like gods on earth. We were enlightened. Great technology, we had great connection, we had all of that. We communicate with the trees, with each other. We don't even need language. We can communicate mind to mind in the golden times. What happened, I think, in Atlantis is what these ancient Egyptians say, this descent from for a more evolved state to a lesser evolved state. And that is because I think the corruption comes. We are where we are again. We have this incredible technology, this incredible mind, all these tools, and we give our power to them.
I love ancient Greco-Roman philosophy. Like Plato has really guided me throughout my life, and it still guides me to this day. But I think I don't know. I may be wrong, but didn't or wasn't Socrates heavily influenced by ancient Egypt?
Well, I think the ancient Greeks were influenced by ancient Egypt. And there is a lot of debate on how much Socrates and Plato were influenced by ancient Egypt. Or Solon even, went from Athens to Egypt, and then his memories of that trip influenced, the philosophers of Athens and the classical world, therefore. But in Greece, you will find temples to the Egyptian deities everywhere. In many of the sacred places like Elefsina, you will find the temples to the Egyptian deities there. You will find them in Dion, which is at the beginning of Mount Olympus, one of the most sacred sites that not many people know of because it's a little bit hard to get to. You will find them in Delos, which is the birthplace of Apollo and Artemis. One of the holiest islands in Greece, is Delos. Nobody lives there now. It's not allowed to live there. It's still a very much sacred space. And you will find the most perfect temple of Goddess Isis there. But when I use the term goddess, actually, it's probably misleading because this is the term that the Egyptologists of the 18th, 19th, 20th century still use to describe the enlightened beings, the Neteru, if you like, what we call the deities of ancient Egypt. But to the ancient Egyptians, these were they had a very different concept of these beings. They were in different levels, they had different roles. So in the mental level, they were an archetype. It means that they have these characteristics in perfect form. This is the archetype of the Divine Mother in Goddess Hathor. This is the archetype of the wise elder in Thoth or Jehuti. And then at the spiritual level, they are beings of light who are right there next to them. They are teachers. They are saying, you have an archetype within yourself. There is a part of you that aligns with one of these different powers. And in this lifetime, you can discover that through know thyself, through doing your spiritual work. And then as you find that, you start to express the perfect, let's say, the perfect form in the world of duality. Becoming the shining spirit, what they call the Sahu, the shining spirit. So their philosophy, and if you like spirituality, because it was much more than philosophy for the mind, they were taking this another step into the spiritual realm. Well, sometimes the Greeks started working very much with the emotional and the mental level. But in ancient Egypt, they start from the spiritual level and then coming down to the mental, emotional, and physical level, seeing it all together, how the energy, the light can flow through all the realms and help us evolve spiritually.
That's so beautiful. Who do you think the ancient Egyptians were influenced by?
I think that personally that their spirituality came to them from Atlantis. So I feel this of course is just what we have from them and from the ancient Greeks, from Plato, that Atlantis was there beyond the Straits of Gibraltar. So for Straits of Gibraltar in the Atlantic Ocean, Plato says there was this civilization, of course, and but the Atlanteans, when their world finished, when they went through this catastrophe of the Great Flood, they went to the places where they already had a base. One of these was Egypt, and they come to Egypt where they had already built the pyramids, and they start their civilization again. They start, finding everything again. This very complex society with so much structure. And this is what is unique in Egypt, is like, how did Egypt start it? How did Egypt became all of a sudden this very complex society with structures, with government, with all these different structures and administration? And it's almost as if it comes out of nowhere. In other cases, we can see, step by step, what is the evolution of society and how you end up in a certain way, creating society in a certain way. In Egypt, it just appears. There you have the pharaoh. There you have all these priests. And there you have all these the temples becoming universities, like they cover every aspect of knowledge. There you have all these administrators. So how on earth did it come together? So this is a big question, and my answer to that, of course, I can't prove anything, but
Mhm.
it is that it came from the previous era. The ancient Egyptians talk about this era. They have left us writings, and they said there was a time called Zep Tepi, the first time, what I call the golden time, if you like. And this time was when humanity was so aware. They say that we, as human beings, at that time were like gods on earth. We were enlightened because, again, the word God is very much a Western concept. So they mean that we are at that time, that first era, we are beings of light in a body, consciously, and we are aware. We have so much ability, psychic abilities, but also knowledge. And we had great technology, we had great connection, we had all of that. So they call that the first time. And it's interesting because the Sanskrit tradition talks about that too, talks about the first era where the human beings were incredibly evolved, and it was like a golden era. So you sometimes find parallels between traditions, but the ancient Egyptians say that was how we used to be, and that we can go back to that.
What happened, do you think, that it kind of masked or kind of layered that our ability to tap into that consciousness where we're more aware, or gods on earth?
So Egypt, when you look at the history of Egypt, even pharaonic Egypt, you see that the older times are the more evolved, even when it comes to architecture, to design, to even the construction of furniture is much more elegant. And then
Mhm.
as you come down the dynasties and you come closer to our time, everything becomes much more sort of less elegant, less structure. There is this descent from a more evolved state to a lesser evolved state, and that is because I think the corruption comes. So
Mm.
what they said is that when we go into that conditioning, into that conditioned mind, which they identified and they described very well as as Seth. So Seth is the archetype, if you like, of the conditioned mind, which manipulates, lies. It's like brings everything that is not true, everything that is alien to who we are inside. And Seth is very hurt and very vindictive, and tries to cause so much harm. But what we are going through right now is this time of Seth. And they said that we are going to live through this very hard time of corruption until we start to look for something else. And what we're looking for is our sovereignty. So to not to give our power to the outside, to the world that grasps us and take us out of our center, and we give our crown, our sovereignty, and our crown chakra is no longer ours. It's almost, they said, you lose your crown, and then we find our crown again. We find our sovereignty through connection with our spirit. And that was what they said we had to do, that this time of awakening through connection with our spirit will come. And they call it the time of Horus. So I believe we are in the cusp of this time between Seth, the corruption, and also, of course, the awakening through the spirit. So this is where we are. So what is interesting also is another myth that you have in Egypt, which you also have in the Bible, and that is the brother killing brother. So this killing, this murdering of the other human person who is your brother is a primordial karma that we are still living out today, and with all the wars and with all the destruction that is going on. So I feel this is something very deep that we have to heal.
Mm.
um, uh, and in the myth in Egypt, you have the good king who is, all heart but so naive, trusts everybody and loves everybody, and the land that everybody prospers because we have enlightened government. And I think that was what they were trying to do, is also from the pharaoh to everybody to follow what they call the rule of Maat, meaning truth and justice in every aspect of our life. Not something that we have to do because the law says we have to be like that, but because this is how we can maintain a good life in every aspect of our life, and also prosper. If we are following this, then the land will prosper. This was the defense at the psychic level, at the spiritual level, that we don't create heavy karma. We defend the rule of Maat. If we don't, then Egypt would fall. If the Pharaoh would not defend the rule of Maat, and he's not just and true, then the whole Egypt would fall. Everybody had to do that, because they have this belief that we have to live a just life here on earth, and then we can overcome the primordial karma.
Mm. Mm. I've always wondered, like Atlantis, like what made them so great, right? Like that they're no longer here, and that we should all model our civilization based upon their principles or their teachings or Hermeticism or Thoth or these ancient Egyptian philosophies. It's like and this is just like, like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be like super critical of them, but like if they were so great, if they were so awakened, like why are they not here? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, and that's such a good question. But we can see this, within ourselves. We're all on this journey. Sometimes we feel we go so far. We think, okay, I have done so much, but then the next day something happens, and we think, oh yeah, I still have a lot of work to do.
Mhm.
I can see within myself what I need to heal. But sometimes we can see this in people that they do go so well, and then the ego comes. And what I feel is that what I have seen is that this is part of the evolution of the soul. It's very unfortunate. It's not my path. My path is the heart. But I have seen people who have chosen in a previous life to follow the path of the ego that create so much suffering for others and eventually for themselves. But when we do the work and we go through the healing process, they say, my soul chose this so I could understand why this happens, because I didn't know. And then so I could help other people who had gone that way as well through the path of the ego. So I think there are cycles of evolution, and one of these cycles is unfortunately this time of corruption. But what happened, I think, in Atlantis is what these ancient Egyptians say is that people became so um, sure of themselves. They said, we can do everything. The earth is ours. We don't have to look after the sacred. We don't, we before, life is so sacred. We communicate with the trees, with each other. We don't even need language. We can communicate mind to mind in the golden times. That's what I've seen. But there, during the time of corruption, we go so much into the ego and we think we can do everything. So the ancient Egyptians say that what happened was that the people were started to attack life itself. So it was a time where there was no respect for life, and they were destroying the earth. And that reminds me of this time now. We are where we are again. We have this incredible technology, this incredible mind, all these tools, and we give our power to them. And we think we can do whatever we want. It doesn't matter, we can construct whatever we want, even if it is detrimental even to ourselves and life, because we can. You see sometimes
Mhm.
these scientists and you think, what are you thinking? Creating nuclear bombs and all everything else, and just you know looking after your name, whoever does it first, or whoever is the biggest scientist, instead of thinking, well, hold on, there is something here about life, and your duty, not just to yourself but to everyone and everything. And that was forgotten. So the pyramid texts and the Book of the Dead are telling us that um, Ra, which means the shining one, the creator of life, the life force energy, if you like, so that the people had moved away from the sacred, and there was no reverence to life and to the
Mm.
sacred anymore. And that was the key. Uh, so that was what happened. So when we started uh, destroying life on Earth, I think there was the comeback with the Great Flood. And another part of me loves shamanism. And so I had some teachers, some shamanic teachers, also native people. And one of my teachers used to say, he used to say that, yeah, you think we as human beings are so great, we can do all that, but think of the earth as this big dog, and that the human beings sometimes are like the fleas on the dog. So the dog, all the dog needs to do, if we bite too much, is just shake itself, and we will be away, we'll be out. So
I love that.
so yeah, so we sometimes, human beings, unfortunately, we can be so arrogant. But people can say, what can I do now? And the ancient Egyptians said, start with yourself. The world is the world, will always go through the different situations, the different eras. All that happens there. We're all part of the world, and we're all part of this karma. But we start with ourselves, and all our evolutionary journey is so important, because we raise our vibration, and as we do that, we can create change.
Mm. So, one problem that I've had over the course of my path is like reading all the books and all the text and literature on these different types of awakening processes and philosophies on life and what this place is, and then the different cultures, the what trying to connect the golden thread to all of the different philosophies. And there's a difference between conceptually understanding something and then actually knowing something. It seems like you've read a lot about the history of ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, and the primordial consciousness and archetypes that are associated with each culture. Like, have you had your own knowing? Like, have you converted I guess, that knowledge into wisdom? And what did that look like? Was it a specific event? Like, how did that happen for you?
So there are again two sides of me. One is very academic, and I love reading and going into the ancient cultures. But there's also another side of me that is very intuitive and remembering. And what happens is when I read something, uh, there is the potential that the wisdom can be birthed from within me. So the ancient Egyptians talk about knowledge as the first stage. You know, you do your research, you read these texts, etc. You learn what is written, what is the wisdom, and that is symbolized by the papyrus plant. And then you have the wisdom, and wisdom is the next stage. Is something that is the realization, the self-realization, if you like, and that is symbolized by the ibis bird that is Thoth Jahuti. So Thoth is like the archetype or the enlightened being also that who gives the wisdom to open the path of wisdom, and that comes from within, and that has to be a practical wisdom as well. It has to be something that is useful in life now and in the world. So for me, what I'm doing now, where I am right now, is I stopped reading. I don't read anything uh,
Wow.
because because then I'm not sure. When I wrote Sacred Mysticism of Egypt, I could go into many sources, but I decided not to because I wanted to be a pure channel. There are so many books that are written about Isis that are other authors, and I thought, no, otherwise I won't know. Was I influenced by somebody else? Did it come from a place of wisdom within me? So when I wrote the book, it was very much really remembering what I knew from that golden time from Zep Tepi, and really bringing the rituals, remembering what were the rituals, why we're doing these ceremonies, how can we bring these ceremonies now back into life to help us where we are right now. So one thing that I am doing to develop that wisdom that speaks not just to the mind but to a deeper part of me is ceremony. So the path of the Egyptian mysteries is much more than knowledge. It goes into wisdom because ceremony speaks to a different part of us, and the ceremonies are left there for us
Mm.
to do again. Um,
What do
so then,
ceremonies do exactly? Like, what is it about a ceremony like that? What is it? Is it our reverence for something outside of ourselves that really connects us with those archetypes? Like, what is it about it?
so what happens to me when I do ceremony is that I almost like become that superior self. I go into a place. I light the candle. Yes, the you could say respect. Reverence is a good word, but it's not about giving my power to the sacred because I am the sacred. I'm I'm in some way communing with an aspect of myself because we're all the sacred. So I open myself up to, you could say, to something deeper, to something that is bigger than me, but that is part of me. So that means that I am much more connected. I start to know what to do. I start to feel. Um, it's like doing things that maybe there is the ceremony there, but there are insights that are coming into you as you are doing the ceremony. To give you an idea, I went to Tibet in 2014, And we were on a pilgrimage. It was a very difficult pilgrimage because of the altitude. And we ended up going onto one of these mountains. Of course, there are all mountains there, but it's 5,000 meters. And we're going to a sacred site of Padmasambhava. And as we're going there, we are meditating. It's like a ritual. You're trying to stop your mind thinking. You're trying to go up step by step, and you have to go up step by step because of the altitude. And as you go up there, you have these big, like, holes, almost like a big ball, just chiseled out of the rock, and then a small rock on top. So I'm just going there. Nobody told me this. I just take the rock and I start going around the ball. And then I keep doing this. I haven't seen it anywhere. I haven't read it anywhere. And then as the other people are catching up with me, what happens is the guide we had saying, "Oh, you know about this practice. The ball symbolizes all your lifetimes and your karma, and this doing this as you're chanting the mantra is meant to release or purify your karma through the pilgrimage, through the power of the earth." Now, I've never seen it. Nobody told me. But I am stepping on the steps of so many other people who have done this. So I am linking with something that we have been doing as human race for a long time. Maybe it's a past life, I can't tell you. But when you're doing ceremony, you're connecting to something bigger within yourself that is all knowing. And then the realizations come. And human beings have been doing ritual and ceremony for thousands of years. There is a part of us that knows ceremony, and
Mhm.
it's about taking us beyond the mind, because the mind wants to analyze, loves the information, but ceremony takes you beyond the information.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's the one thing. That's one of the realizations that I've had recently is that I haven't been connecting with that in a I say reverence or in sanctity or more or less like this deeper connection. Like I've been going through the motions and being very like rushed through my practices and hurry up, get done, do the next thing, and like, all right, let's do this. It's almost like checking the box to check the box to say that I've done it instead of like really being in it and connecting to something to allow for a greater um, receptivity or connectivity for downloads and wisdom to come through. Because there is something about like quantum agency where you can allow yourself to go, the scientists call the quantum field, 0 point field, but being able to be in a harmonic resonance with something outside of yourself and connect with that and be in coherence and then bring that information into yourself, which then translates that information throughout the body at a cellular level. Now everything is in vibe with what you're trying to connect with, and you're receiving or remembering things that you can't objectively um, explain. And you're like, for example, to your point, you're picking up a rock in the middle of a bowl and start doing the thing, and you're like, oh, you know about that, and you're like, no, I don't, but I something inside me remembers. And
Mhm.
I mean, there's been plenty of things in my life where I can point towards like doing it and then not remembering how or why. I think like aha moments. Like I don't think you can like force yourself to conceptually have an aha. I think it's like it happens when you can't explain it. Like a lot of Einstein's, Tesla's realizations, like they come in like these times where you least expect it. I mean, I've had my greatest aha moments like coming out of sleep or running or something like that, where it's not like Plato talks about this. It's not necessarily like you have to learn harder. It's like, oh man, you just have to put yourself in a position where you remember.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely think so. And the ancient Egyptians had a wonderful way of explaining that. And I love that. They said that there is your superior self, your etheric self, your multidimensional self. They call that the double. So they say there are two of you. There's one of you that is in the body, the personality, they call that kaibit. So the personality that is acting and reacting in the everyday world. And the personality is kind of things. I'm in charge of life, or how I live my life. I make the decisions. The personality makes the decisions. But then there is this ka, this observer, this wise self, this superior self that is multidimensional, that has so much more knowledge than the personality. And I think it's something like this, that at some point through all these spiritual practices, the personality is going, no, I don't have time to meditate. I'll just meditate, and I'll just do spiritual practice, and it's done, and I'm moving on. I'm doing it because that's what the guru says, or the teachers say. And then at some point, the personality start to realize, yes, it's okay to let go of that control that I have and allow my superior self to come into the forefront.
Mm.
So this ka then starts to come and make the decisions instead of the personality, and the personality allows that because there is at some point that the personality sees the light of the superior self and understands it's okay. I am going to be safe. This superior self does know better, and my life flows better when I do this. So it's okay. I can allow it, and then we start to accelerate our spiritual journey.
Mm. There's something about surrendering. I don't know what it is, but it allows us to deepen that connection. And you've talked a lot about shamanism. I think you are a shaman. Can you define for me, like in simple terms, like if you're talking to a middle schooler, like what exactly is a shaman and what do they do?
Yeah, that's a very big question, and there's a lot of data at the moment. So just my own definition. Other people might say different. So for me, a shaman is someone who has felt the spiritual connection. They say chosen by the spirits, or just in the West, we don't have so many times the spirit materializing and say you're a shaman as they do in other cultures, but you feel that deep spiritual calling, and you are able to start to perceive the multidimensional universe, the different worlds that are there, and you feel your heart that you want to help people, but you are taking your instructions to do that based on what your helping compassionate spirits are advising you is best for your the people who come for healing, or the land who needs healing, or whatever else is required. So a shaman is somebody who can be voluntarily possessed, if you like, by compassionate helping spirits. And this means that the shaman doesn't lose, control. You can come back anytime. That you're saying, okay, you're surrendering, if you like, to this enlightened being, and saying, come through and do this healing through my body. I just watch what you do. I watch you lifting my hands. I watch you taking things out of the body of the other people. I watch you healing them. But and I'm learning from you, because as a human being, I only have a
Mhm.
limited perception, while the spirits have 360 degrees view.
Mhm.
So a shaman follows the spirits. You can go into kind of a light trance, but you don't lose yourself. You can come back anytime.
Mhm.
And for me, I've never been called to work with hallucinogenics. That's not my path. I know some people do that. I have huge respect for that, but I do shamanism as my ancestors did it, through the drum, through the silence, through the song, um, and through the power of the spirits.
Yeah, so you have a long lineage of shamanism. What spiritual guides were they bringing in? Because we're talking your ancestors from Greece. So were
Yes.
they what were those spirit guides and who what did they do?
So basically, what happens if you have a lineage is that your ancestors worked with specific spirits of the land that were in the land. And in our land, we have spirits who are from the underworld, but they're very compassionate, all-knowing. One of them is the crone, or the goddess Hecate. She is a big healing spirit for our tradition. And you also have, there was a melange because times changed. So there were also spirits from the Christian tradition. There was a reverence for everything. And there were spirits from the land, the fairy realm. There was so much respect for that realm, making sure that nobody hurt the fairies, that there was always the attention paid to them, and we didn't disturb their domain, so nothing bad happened to us.
Mhm.
So there was a reverence for the land, if you like. So these are the spirits that come from the lineage. But as my path had been a bit different. So although my great grandfather worked in that, and he tried to teach my father was not interested. He learned a bit, but not much. A lot has been lost. My path was going through first with indigenous people and Western shamans like Sandra Ingerman, from core shamanism, from classic shamanism in the States, and in the Himalayas and other places. Because in my lineage, it was only the men who did shamanism. So it was the first boy, and my dad was the first boy in his
Mm.
family. My granny, who was very psychic, incredibly psychic, was not allowed to do anything like that. She could be a healer, doing the herbs, but and just the practical things, but nothing of the magical tradition. And so when after I learned from different people around the world, I went to my elders and I said, "Can you please teach me?" And they said, "Look, it's not allowed." But they reevaluated after 2 years, me petitioning them and asking them, and saying, "Look, there's no other boy in the family." So in my family, we're all women, all girls. So I said, it is going to be lost again. Whatever you remember now, the little bit that you remember, that's going to be lost again. So eventually I received also from my lineage. But these
That's
spirits,
funny to me how they are more concerned about tradition rather than the loss of their teachings, because that's a real thing right there.
yes, we've lost so much. We've lost so much that is like, and it was always very protected between in the family. So there were some families that they had that knowledge, and it was only going to be passed to one person within the family, the first male, and that person had no option. It was like it wasn't voluntary. My dad said I wasn't interested because I was a wee boy, 5, 6 year old, and I had to do all these ceremonies and cut herbs and do all this, and it was taking such a long time, and all the other kids were playing, and I was just stuck there. And I couldn't say no, because his mother said, "It's you. You are the firstborn boy, so it's you. You have
Mm.
no option." And so much has been lost because people in the 70s, in the 60s, and the 70s in Greece, they saw all this culture and tradition and magical tradition as something inferior, as a peasant's way. It was like, because it was an oral tradition, nothing was written down, and it was practiced by people maybe who were illiterate. Now, my great grandfather was not illiterate, but a lot of people were in the village. Nobody knew how to write, um, and uh, and therefore they said, well, these are just these traditions are just they're ignorant people, they're superstitious people.
Mm.
So we've lost so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think all the ancient religions were, oral traditions. I mean, Christianity for a really long time was an oral tradition. And that's where I have some, I would say, friction against some of these religions, because like they hold it, this is the law, this is the word of God. And it's like, Have you ever played the game telephone with like your friends, and how much that message gets distorted as you get around the circle? And so how do you find the truth in that? Like your lineage, the oral traditions, all the indigenous tribes, like how do you recognize it as, oh, this is like actually true, or oh, this may be somebody's influence or somebody's kind of narrative here? Like how do you find truth for yourself?
That's a really good question, and I can really answer that because recently I had that discussion with one of the people who studied with me, and some people went to a pilgrimage somewhere, and in that pilgrimage there was this. You could say teacher or shaman who was very much in their ego, and although they were connected, they said they could see spirit and everything, it all felt very invasive, and none of that was. It felt like almost like we are telling you what is the truth. We're telling you this is it, and people were just left very very almost traumatized after that. And then when we were doing the healing to overcome this trauma, there was so much incredible love. There was this incredible feeling of like really being lifted. And there is so much love and so much beauty. And the people said, when we worked with the indigenous shaman, there was all this love. When we worked with that, difficult teacher who was like, telling us off and everything, and there was an inner ego. It was just almost like a stealing of power. So for me, what I have felt from the spirits who I work with, they never ask for anything. I in my tradition, we always give them a cup of tea and a couple of fruits. It's like thank you, and I put that
An
under a
offering,
tree
right? Yeah,
for,
yeah,
for,
yeah.
for the animals. But it's almost for me to say thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I
Mhm.
leave that under a tree for the squirrels and the animals. But it's just that incredible feeling of love, support, and just healing. You really feel it within you. You feel the energy. And I really, sometimes I hear people saying, I went for a shamanic healing, I never felt a thing. And I think, how can you go for something like that and not feel anything? It's like incomprehensible.
Well, I think everybody now is a shaman, especially in California or like LA. Like I think everybody's putting that on their LinkedIn accounts, and people are like, "Oh, I want to go see a shaman." And so like, I don't know. There needs to be, I don't know. There just needs to be
Yeah.
more discretion, I think. And um I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a part of the journey too. Every education costs something, right? Either money or like, trauma, but you'll learn something in the end. I mean, that's part of the path, right?
It is, yes, it is. And we are in a world where, people can wear many faces and
Yes.
many masks. And that's why we have to really listen beyond the mind, because the mind will trip us and say, well, that's a very famous person. They must
Mhm.
know. And
Mhm.
then or they are from that tradition, they must know. And then you go there and you don't feel it, and to accept that this is not for me. They might be famous, etc. That may speak to some people, but there is something deeper that I can connect with, and I can't connect with them. It doesn't resonate, and I feel that energy that is like bringing me home. Is that feeling of like I'm at home. I feel at home in this place. And as you said, it can be from different people around the world, from different traditions around the world. And yesterday I was holding a circle, and somebody came who had lived in Mexico for 26 years, and she said that she came because she wanted to drum and do ceremony, but at home it's not possible. There's too many neighbors, etc. So she said, I saw shamanic circle and I came for that. But she said, I did not expect that I could feel the same energy that I felt with my indigenous community in Mexico. I just never could expect that I would feel it here in the West. And it
Mhm.
was because we were all coming together from that high intention for healing, and co-creating a beautiful space.
Mm.
So, wherever we go in the world, or we find our calling, it could be that the light takes us to where we're meant to be.
Mm, beautifully said. So let me ask you a hard question. Do you think like some of these archetypes, like let's say Yeshua is an archetype, or
Yeah,
Zeus,
yeah.
or anyone really from ancient Egypt, like do you think they actually existed, or do you think they're myths?
So I feel that they are. They didn't. I don't feel they existed as in human body. I don't feel they were born as a human.
So even
So
like Jesus as that story, you think that
no,
was a
no.
myth?
Jesus, I do believe he was born as a human, but I mean from ancient Egypt. So I feel that
Okay.
the Neteru, these beings of light from ancient Egypt, they have not incarnated as a human. But I feel what we are carrying part of that archetype within us, and and that they are teachers and they're very close to us. So I feel that these beings of light, when we call them with a pure intention, not just out of curiosity, or because I want to have a guide whose
Yeah.
name
I want
is
$1 million in the bank, right? So hey, come
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still waiting for to see the lottery numbers, but I never have. So what happens is they are so close, the connection is so strong. So for me, my experience is that they're right there. They're not in some place far up in the sky. I feel they are really close, and I felt when I was a child, all I knew, as a young child, was the tradition of the church. I was very, I was raised as a Greek Orthodox person, child, and we used to go to the church with the school. So it was like part of the school program. And I remember looking at the place of the church. I remember looking at Jesus, and I could feel that energy around me. And I never had all that sin and damnation thing. That was never part of my awareness. But I very much felt that they were real. And Mother Mary was my first guide. So she came to me. I was a child, and I used to have conversations with her, and I used to ask her all these questions. Just the questions a child has. It was nothing deep, and nothing about the wisdom of the ages. It was just like, what time is it, Mother Mary? She would show me a clock, and she would show me the time, and I could see that with my mind's eye. I would ask her to win the lottery at school, saying, can you help me so I could get the present? And she used to do that. There was nothing, no guilt, nothing of that. She used to say to me, don't go so fast, you will fall. Be careful when you cross the road. It was one time that I felt pulled back, and I know other people have that experience
Mhm.
when a car just zoomed away in front of me, and I felt her presence, and that lasted while I was a child. When I went to high school, and the mind became more dominant, that went. That was not there anymore, because
Mm.
the mind said, "What are you doing? Who do you think you are? You can speak to Mother Mary." Before, there were no barriers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm. Do you see like these archetypes in your physical reality now? Like I think you said something about being psychic, but I'm not sure. Can you see these energies in 3D reality?
Yes, I connect with them. It's not all the time. It's not like while I was a child, I was much more open, but
Mhm.
now it's like almost like I will come, create my sacred space, light my candle, and call in these beings for a specific intention. If I'm doing a healing or a ritual, or I am teaching a course, or I'm writing the book, I was like, okay, come in and help me, so that I'm a clear channel, and it's not the conditioning that is coming through me. And you can feel the energy of the book, because it's the way I've written it. It was like a transmission of light.
Mm. So you might be the right person to ask this question, since you've done so much research in Plato, and that's like your homeboy almost. What do you think he meant by the cave? Like, do you think it is a metaphor for the awakening process, or do you think it's an actual literal text stating that this reality is not what we think it is?
Yeah, that is a big question. I think that's like a really big question. That
Yeah.
what? Yeah, yeah, and I think maybe we all have different answers at different times of our life.
Hmm.
So for me, what I feel with the cave, in some ways, is yes. Um, that there's that the question, what is real, what is actually real, is this reality real now that we are talking together, or is it when I go to sleep and my spirit, if you like, leaves the body, and whatever, do I wake up in another way? Is that more real than this one? Or so am I asleep when I'm awake, or am I awake when I'm
Hmm.
asleep? So this is the question. So what I feel he's showing us is that there is a bigger side to life, and I feel Earth and this reality is a training ground for the soul. I feel that the Earth is a very advanced school. That is not an easy school to come and graduate from, as we can see, because life is not easy. No matter what are your circumstances, life can be very much bittersweet, and what we need to do is become aware of the shadows in the cave, become aware of what is outside the cave, and become aware, actually, where am I in this cave? Um, can I see myself, or do I see the shadow? Am I the shadow, or am I the consciousness in this body? There's an interesting. The reason I spoke about the dream reality is because a few years ago I had this message from a medium. I went to a spiritualist church because I had a friend there who was a medium, and I went to support him. And there were other mediums giving evidence of life after death. But this
Hmm.
medium came to me and said that I had a guide who was a nun, and she wanted to show me what I do when I'm asleep. So I said, yes, I would love to do that. So for 2 nights, I had these dreams, one after the other. I can't remember all of the dreams now, but these dreams were very vivid. And I was showing myself being a spirit guide for other people in other parts of the world. And I saw that I was basically trying to help them make good decisions, to help them come out of difficult situations, to try and protect them so they weren't getting killed or having accidents. And I was trying to help them find their spiritual path, to say, look, there is something bigger. And these dreams were lasting 2 hours, but the time within the dream, so for that person, would have been months. So I was there for them for months, but in my time frame was 2 hours. So I think time is very flexible too. Do you see what
So
I
you're
mean?
coming outside of this linear reality, and you were staying with someone. It's all, time relative. You were there with them, with that individual, being a spirit guide for them. That's pretty powerful. Like, I've never heard of that before. Like, maybe you've been your own spirit guide too. Those times where you think that you're getting ready to walk the street as a little girl, and that push back. Sometimes maybe that could have been a future version of yourself. I don't know. We always think about past lives and how they influence us now. Nobody really talks about the future lives or future versions of ourselves, and that are coming back and helping us evolve here in this moment.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that before we are born, that we know the life we are going to step into, that we have some sort of awareness that this is where I'm going. And I feel that excitement when I talk about that, when I connect with the time before I was born, when I looked at the earth and thought, yes, I'm going to live this life. You feel this excitement. I'm going to be alive. I'm going to come and be on the earth. And then you come here and you forget all about that. And you think, oh, today, it's a difficult day or whatever. So, but I really feel that our soul really wants to be here because it's a very advanced place. Earth is a very
Hmm.
advanced school.
Hmm.
And life on earth is something very unique. And so many souls want to do that. There are so many souls who want to incarnate on earth. And when I connect with them, they say, I want any life. It doesn't matter whether it's an easy life, a rich life, a poor life. I just want to be here,
Why is that
experience.
though? Like, you don't think there's that? Like, I feel like people are trying to get out of here left and right, especially get out of body and disassociate because this place is
Mhm.
so hard. So, like, what
Yeah.
do you think a soul experiences on the other side that that makes them commit to whatever life they can get their hands on?
Yeah, I think it's a very exclusive place, Earth. It's not
Hmm.
easy to be born here, to have a life here on Earth, and I think it offers at soul level, and our soul is more interested in that than our earthly conditioned personality.
Hmm.
At soul level, we know this is a place we can really grow.
Hmm.
So it's almost like something that is a very unique way to accelerate your soul evolution. Um, and even as I say that, I know in another level the soul is already evolved, and there's nothing to evolve
Sure.
into.
It's a paradigm or paradox, like
Yeah, yeah.
it's weird how that works. How can it know everything but also evolve? It's wild.
But
I'm
I can
curious. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I could share that there's something that one of my helping spirits said once. So he said, you have no idea what a gift it is to be so evolved, to have all the light, to be this luminous being, and to lose it, and then to find it again. The joy that you will experience when you find the light again and you find yourself again in that space is tremendous. The energy of that is something that very few souls experience. Of course, nobody wants to lose it. That
Mhm.
loss, that dismemberment, that being cut in the 14 pieces like Osiris
Mhm.
it's a very hard thing. And the rememberment of bringing the pieces together, of becoming whole again, it's like, this incredible act of of divine grace. And that's
Mhm.
what how he described it. So there are times that you feel that being whole, you feel that grace around you, you feel that it's emanating from you and everything else around you. And because that's who we are. And the more we do this work, the spiritual path, the more we feel it.
Mm. So there's like two questions I want to ask you so badly. One is about the trajectory of mankind and like the prophecies that are what you found to be actually happening right now that kind of points towards the awakening process. And then there's also like the part of me that wants to ask the question about the Great Mother. Like is there a Great Mother? You talked about Mary. I've learned about wisdom and the Judaic tradition, the Holy Spirit, Sophia, and the Gnostic tradition, like coming in and being that key towards Adam's evolution and spiritual awakening. So I'll leave it up to you. Which one do you want to answer?
So about the mankind, I'll answer both and I'll be
Okay.
short. I'll try and be short. So about mankind, we've talked already about knowledge and the papyrus plant and the ibis bird, which is wisdom. And the prophecy said that there would be a time where the papyrus plant, the ibis bird, and the lotus flower would go from Egypt, will disappear from the Nile and from the land of Egypt. And that is because it's the time where the enlightened ones leave Egypt. They're saying there is no light. This is a time of darkness. But this is the time of Seth. This is a time of corruption. But when Horus comes back, when the spirit is awakening within us, when we come into the next era, you have these three signs reappearing: the papyrus plant and the ibis bird and the lotus flower. So the two of them, the papyrus, the knowledge, and the ibis, the wisdom, are already here. They are awakening within us. We are embodying our wisdom more and more through these aha moments. Um, Whatever is our path, surrendering to it and allowing ourselves to walk our path. But the third one, which is the awakening through the lotus, through divine love, through the heart, the wise heart. This is the most difficult one, and that is still not there. So so if you like, we are still on the road. We don't have that awakening through the divine heart yet. The lotus has not appeared yet back in Egypt. It is not there yet. So when it comes back is the third sign. So that is the prophecy. And the Divine Mother, it's an incredible healing, and is for me that has been my path, was to really connect with the Divine Mother. And the Divine Mother, in the ancient times, in ancient Greece, they said Isis was the being of light with 10,000 names or 10,000 emanations. She said to me, wherever you look in all these cultures, you will find the Divine Mother. And the Divine Mother is a way for them to describe the incredible love of the Creator that flows to us. And the only way they can describe it really is like this mother is like seeing, has given birth to this baby. And she's just holding this baby for the first time. And this baby is looking at the mother's eyes. And then the mother feeds the baby from her own cells, from her own body, and from her own milk, the life force energy. So this baby can grow. So this is the way they try to describe how that energy, how that love can be felt in human terms.
Mm.
So they're saying this is the nurturing love, the love that doesn't say you're bad or you should do this. It's the love that sustains you, the love that feeds you, the love that says you're the child or the divine child of the universe. You can heal. You are part of this world and you are not alone. I'm holding you. I've never left you. So these are the words that I hear again and again from Isis and other emanations of the Divine Mother. Even the wrathful deities, they say, we protect you because you're the child of the cosmos, a divine child. That's how they see us all, not me personally, everybody. And what they said is that, in the old times, we knew that we were surrounded by this love. We knew that we were the children of the divine, and therefore divine ourselves. But humanity, we went into, instead of being this divine child, we became the divine teenager, and we say we know it all.
Yeah.
We want out of the house.
Yeah.
Mother, father don't know anything. We know everything. And we're starting destroying ourselves, fighting
Yeah.
with each other. I'm
Yeah.
wrong, I'm right. So she holds the door for us to come back.
Yeah. We're sneaking out in the middle of the night and smoking cigarettes and drinking beer and doing all the bad things, right? For sure. And then there's this point where we realize that all of that is childish and that's not really who we want to be. And I think that's where the awakening process is. I think a lot of people are starting to like, oh, this isn't exactly what I thought it would be. And even in like the Genesis story with the Garden of Eden, I come back to that, and how the fall of man, like everyone looks at it as this, the serpent comes and tempts Eve, and she falls victim to the temptation and eats the fruit, and then gives it to Adam. And like, what if it's backwards? Like, and we put this negativity, and we associate this negativity towards Eve and the serpent, but like, what if it's backwards? Like, what if they were our liberators, and like the wheel of comfortability, like of sameness, because you're in a garden, right? Like, and you have whatever you want. You have all this, you don't know that you're naked. You're just, anything that you need is taken care of for you. Like, well, where's the growth in that? Almost,
Mhm.
like, where is the actual growth or evolution of a person who has everything at their fingertips? And it's like the serpent comes, and like, maybe that is the Christ. Maybe that is, um, letting you, the mechanism that points you towards your own awakening. And then you eat the fruit of knowledge, and you realize that, hey man, this reality is not what I think it is. And then there's a fall from the garden into this world, and it's like, all right, now it's kind of like getting back to, finding who you truly are. So I think, instead of like, I don't know, we all want to, I guess, be adverse to challenges and pain. But it's like, through those pain, it's like, through those challenges, through the complications is where the growth takes place. It's like, yes, it's painful, but that's just human nature, and wanting to get away from that pain, and like, disassociate and not feel it, because we label it as bad. And it's like, through it, it's like through the fire, through the tempering of the steel that makes it stronger. Iron sharpens iron. So it's like, there's hard times where you need to embrace the change, the unknown. And on the other side of that, like, you can't predict what you're going to be. It's like an evolutionary thing. It's like quantum realm, where there is, you know, uh, there's just so many different probabilities. Uncertainty, the uncertainty principle. Like, if I knew what was going to happen next, like, what's the point of watching the movie? Like, I want to be surprised. I want to know, that I don't know. And through that, there is frustration, because the human mind wants to control, and create this novel, and wants to create the storyline, and be, but that's just out of fear and wanting security in the story. I want to be the director, the producer, the actor in my story. Yeah, that's great. You can do those things, but ultimately, like, what's the point of living the life if you're just going to create your own ending? Like, you gotta, like, I get it. You can create some experiences, but there has to be some uncertainty in there for full potential and full growth. And I apologize for going down a longer
No,
rant than I wanted to, but I think it ties back to these different archetypes, and that they don't give you everything that you want. Like, even if you go down and you pray every day, for 10 hours a
mhm.
day, asking for things, like, they're not going to give you exactly what you want. They're going to give you what you need.
That's so right. That's so right, Ray. Thank you for saying that, because there are people who come to me and say, "Oh, I wish I could see the beings of light. I wish I could see my guides. They would tell me what to do all the time."
Hmm.
And humanity is in danger of giving their power to spirits, or to computers, or to
AI.
artificial
Yep.
intelligence. There are people asking AI, What should I eat today?"
Mhm.
Why do we need to ask something? AI will say, "Okay, eat this today, it's good for you." you know and it's like uh, almost like giving our power to something external.
Sovereignty. Yep.
Yeah, the
That's the
sovereignty.
confusion, though, almost, for me.
Yeah.
It's like, you think you read, right? You're giving your sovereignty away, but then there's also, like, is that the fear of ego death? Of like, all right, how do you surrender that power to a higher being? Like, I mean, that's what we've been taught. Is that a lie? Is that something to try to take our essence, our sovereignty away from us? Because, like you said, there, when you go into these meditations, in these light states of meditation, and you're receiving guidance, but you're still there. And I think it's like, I don't know, like, because sometimes I think about the metaphor of Jesus when he was taking, his walk to the cross. It's like he was surrendering. Like, I think, and maybe, I'm sure you've encountered teachers that have magical, mystical powers, maybe in the Himalayas or something. Like, I read text about, like, Babaji and
yeah.
these Indian masters that can transport and teleport to different things and can read your mind and all these things. You can't tell me that Jesus couldn't do these things. Like if he's healing the sick and the blind, like there's no doubt in my mind this dude can like teleport to different dimensions. So in that instance where he's walking the path to the cross, dragging the cross, like why didn't he do that? Like, why didn't he run away? And it's like he surrendered his sovereignty for something more more than himself, which was humanity, and I don't know, like that's where I get to the point of, is it a metaphor? Is it a metaphor for surrendering the ego to sacrifice that to transform yourself, to transcend the ego into this different consciousness state of like the higher self or the other self? And then when you die, when the ego dies and you enter and synthesize with that consciousness, and then you come back and you can, redeem, you can resurrect into that other self. And now you are immortal. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
As you were speaking, there are some parallels of that in the ancient Egyptian teachings, because what happens is they say you have the personality and the double, and what you're surrendering really is you are surrendering the ego. As you said, I'm surrendering the ego to the luminosity of my spirit, and or to the divine, but that is not giving away my power, saying I'm this small person who is sinful or whatever. It's not like that. It's actually saying I am surrendering, let's say, the conditioned mind to the sacredness of the all that is part of me as well. And what the ancient Egyptians said is exactly what you described. So at death, they said your consciousness leaves your body and joins again with that superior wise self. You become one, and the ego is no more. So the ego fears death. It's only the ego that fears death, because that is like the ego will not exist when the spirit emerges, because the spirit is there is no death for the spirit. So the spirit looks, what have I done through this life, through this projection into this world. And then at death the two come together, and there is, as you said, a learning from that, and then we come back again in another lifetime, again developing the personality as we grow into this world in a human body. In the beginning we are this beautiful spirit, all the children are these babies, these beautiful beings of light, and then we eventually have our own descent from grace, living that Garden of Eden, and yeah, and
Yeah,
coming
it's
into
like
the
the
mind.
fall of the Garden of Eden, like the return of, what is that? The oh my gosh, I'm having a total brain fart right now. The return of the son, like what is it? The prodigal son, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
prodigal son.
prodigal son.
Yeah, but what you have there is in the golden times, in that first era, there was, as you said, so much connection. We're living on earth as beings of light, but the potential for spiritual growth was very slow, because everything was there. We're
Mhm.
already in this enlightened state. What needs more to happen? But in our times of corruption that are so difficult and there is so much suffering, there is also the potential for huge leaps in consciousness. If we are able at some point through our journey to start living life from being more aware, in a more an awakened state.
Mhm.
So these times, these hard times, these times where we ate the fruit and we realized we're naked, or we start to make judgments about ourselves. Before we were these innocent beings, like Osiris. He's so loving and innocent. And then we come to that place of Seth. And now we are coming out of that, saying that doesn't serve us either. There is a
Mhm.
different way of being on the earth, but they're all the existence is cyclical. It's like this snake that bites its tail.
Yeah.
Is the Ouroboros. We are is not a linear existence. So we are going through these different eras. and we are at the cusp right now, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Fotoula, I can talk to you all day, literally all day.
Yes, me too.
How can people connect with you?
So people can connect with me through Sacred Mysticism of Egypt, the ancient path of Heka initiation. Heka means the power of creation. So the book is out. You can get it wherever you are. And also the website is the ISIS School of Holistic Health, all one word, the ISIS School of Holistic Health.com. There are webinars there that I'm going to be teaching online, live, and you can also catch up if you miss some of them once a month. There is the course that is the path of the initiate. There are courses on shamanism. There is so much there. It's like really, really rich. There's so much I do, and I would love to connect with you. And if I
Mhm.
can help you in your journey and share what I have found out, and the teachings of my ancestors, um, and also from other teachers that I have permission to share, then I would be very happy to.
Mm.
Thank
Last
you.
question for you. So I'm throwing an Awakened Leader Summit next week, actually. Um, Synthesizing the ancient Egyptians, the process of initiation and shamanism. What would the Awakened Leader look like?
Mm. Yeah, the awakened leader at the moment, the awakened leader we need in, or the world needs right now, is somebody who is truly connected to his spirit and to the wisdom of his spirit, but is also able to act in the material world. So he's in his power, in his sovereignty, or in her sovereignty, but is also very much part of the world and takes action. It's not about meditating in a mountain and bringing just the energy there and hoping for the best. I think it's about helping people find their own way through in inviting. Of course, every part of this path is an invitation. Nothing is, you must do this. It's all an invitation, but it's bringing that in the material plane and leading by example. I think this is very important. It's not about having the title, I'm a shaman, I'm a meditation teacher, and never do any shamanic work or meditating, or just expecting other people to catch up because you don't need to, because you're so. It's just like really leading by example, living that life of justice and truth, as the ancient Egyptians said, and and being in your heart. And sometimes that's very difficult because people, not everybody, or the world is not in their heart. But if you are bringing that vibration in, holding, knowing that whatever it is, we're all in this karma. There are people I need to let go. There are people I need to forgive, and there are people that are coming to me for help. So do your best. I think that's also something that is important. Follow the steps of your soul.
Beautiful. Fotoula, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Trey. It was such a joy to share this time with you. And thank you for all your questions. And thank you to everybody who has been listening. Thank you.